by far. So yeah. Everybody, it is Alex here, back again from the Comic Central, and today we are going to be doing a Spider-Man reading guide. Now, I believe this will be the first or second reading guide. I've already recorded about one and referencing that's my first reading guide. This may release before that, and I knew I needed to do the two most popular comic book characters, with Spider-Man and Batman being those two. I thought it was really important to get down and fully have that. So, that being said, let's get into it. So, the first book that I am very interested in showing, so I'm going to start with a one-off story. Now, the rest of this will be runs, of like long-running runs with many stories. This is the only one-off story that I have, and it is amazing. I think this is my first Spider-Man comic. It was not my first read Spider-Man comic, but this is one of the ones I read in 2024 since, well, to say this, every single one of these were 2024 reads. If you could see this by the cover, this is Spider-Man Blue. Or no, wait, no, I'm tripping. Not Spider-Man Blue, the cover is blue. This is Spider-Man Life Story by Chip Zdarsky with art by Mark Bagley, and I'm missing any other stuff, but the art in here, well, it's the best Spider-Man. Sure that. It is the best Spider-Man artist, probably. And that's Mark Bagley. He's still doing Spider-Man. He's been doing it since the 90s. I believe the shirt I'm wearing is, I think the shirt might be Mark Bagley Spider-Man. It's Mark Bagley or Eric Larson, I'm pretty sure. But he's just amazing. And Chip Zdarsky is one of my favorite writers in comics. I love his Batman. His Daredevil is one of my favorite comics ever. It is just an amazing tale that I think is a great way, and sort of how to describe it is Spider-Man Life Story. It is Spider-Man, but it's 6 issues it also has an annual, but 6 issues plus an annual, so like 7 issues, where it's going through Spider-Man, but it is the decades of his life. So this is if Spider-Man aged in real natural time. So he starts in the 60s, and every issue skips a decade, and going through some of the major stories of those decades, like Kraven's Last Hunt or the Clone Saga. It is a thrilling ride that is amazing, and I recommend to new readers. Now, as a book, so now we're going to go into our first run. This is the newest run on this list, and this is probably the last actually good Spider-Man run. This is collected in 3 formats. There's, of course, the single issues. I won't mention the single issues as a format, but collected formats. It's collected in trade paperbacks, and now 2 omnis that I've recently released. If you couldn't see it when I moved it, this is Spider-Man by Nick Spencer, with art by Ryan Utley, and later on, I believe Patrick Gleason is the artist. But this is Back to Basics, where, as the title goes, it's back to basics with Spider-Man. It's simple, having like relationship stuff with MJ. This sort of starts and shows the Mayor Fisk, which is a key component in Zdarsky Daredevil. But this started in 2018. It's 15 trade paperback volumes, 2 omnis, all by Nick Spencer. I have not read a lot of this, but this first trade's a good read, and then it jumps into other stories and other books with a sort of a villain that goes over a lot of the run. Is one villain, which is sort of interesting as an overarching villain in stories, which is sort of common in Spider-Man. From what I've read, there's like, when you have runs, there's overarching villains. One of the main ones, we'll talk about another one later, that's an overarching villain. So, yeah. Now, the next book I'm going to talk about is, when you think about getting into Spider-Man, some people are like, why not start from the beginning? And my opinion on that is a lot of characters, like Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman, they're like first appearances, they start in the Golden Age. Now, if you don't know, the Golden Age of comics starts in around the 30s, late 1930s. Like Superman, the first appearance of Superman is mainly noted as the start of the Golden Age of comics, and that goes on for a while. Now then there's the Silver Age of comics. Now, what is the start of the Silver Age of comics? I don't know how this exists, but comic historians, which that would be a cool job to have. Comic historians state that the start of the Silver Age of comics is Showcase 4. Showcase 4 is the first appearance of Barry Allen's Flash. So in the Silver Age, storytelling gets a lot better, just in general. Objectively, it's better. You get some great characters along with like Hal Jordan. But the main thing to come out of the Silver Age, which has another title, the Marvel Age of Comics, where Timely Comics changed their name to Marvel, and they had another name, Atlas, before that, but they changed to Marvel Comics, and that came the first appearance of the Fantastic Four. And to ride the success of that, they were like, Stan Lee, do more. So he created Spider-Man along with some sketches from Jack Kirby, but Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created Spider-Man. This is the original Spider-Man works. It is probably the best Silver Age comic. I have recency bias since I've spent so much money on this series and read all of it. But this isn't the first Epic collection because my first Epic collection is damaged. But this is just amazing. This is the second collection, which it's sort of hard. I have to say it's hard to scale of where to jump on when it comes to Silver Age Spider-Man or like classic Spider-Man, like the first 200 or so issues. Where do you jump on? It's hard to scale. So, like, let's say the first Epic collection. So this gives the first appearance of the Scorpion, and yeah. So that's the only like main villain that is, I believe, that first appears in that story. The first appearance. That's the only like main villain. I guess the Enforcers and I think possibly Shocker do as well. But the main villain that appears in the second Epic collection is Scorpion. The first Epic collection has some books like. Has basically all of Spider-Man's main rogues other than Venom, Morbius, and that. But Morbius comes around issue 100, so like Venom, Carnage, and Hobgoblin are the only like 3 Spider-Man villains that don't come out of the first like 25 issues. So in that first 25 issues, you get practically every one of the notable Spider-Man villains, like Doc Ock, Kraven, Electro, Sandman, Green Goblin, all those main iconic characters that I've seen in movies, TV shows, all that is in those first 25 issues. And that's by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. And it's amazing. And it keeps going on, and it goes on and on, until around until I think it's issue 40, where you get the identity of the Green Goblin, and John Romita jumps in and redefines the art of Spider-Man and Spider-Man as a character, which is really enjoyable. And then, after a lot of other issues, Stan Lee leaves the book and goes in Jerry Conway. And that's what I have in this omnibus. Volume 6 is about to... I'm getting my Volume 6 this week, apparently. UPS hasn't shipped it. It released last week as of recording this video. But this is... Spoiler... Yeah, I guess you can see it on the cover, but... Yeah, you should, sadly. For watching this, if you got minorly spoiled, I'm sorry. You can see as the cover, you know, if you know Spider-Man, you know what the cover means, what the story is. But it's then Jerry Conway. Gil Kane does some art in here, which is amazing. Which is one of Todd McFarlane's main inspirations, is Gil Kane. But Gil Kane does some work. And then goes in my favorite classic Spider-Man artist so far. And that's Ross Allen-Drew. Ross Allen-Drew started after John Romita started to leave, and he became, like, the head artist, like, the art director of Marvel. And then, like, who's going to do Spider-Man? Who's going to do it? Like, Romita was done. Who's going to do it? They had Ross Allen-Drew. And he's added... So, mainly, Spider-Man art stayed a lot, like, very similar. But he adds his own touch to what Romita did. And it's a very enjoyable art, in my opinion. I don't know. Okay, I will stop rambling about Classic Spider-Man. It's good, but you don't have to read it if you don't want to, because it can be very wordy and dull in some issues. Like the 15th Spider Slayer. Like, jeez. Jonah. But again, it's sort of hard to scale. But yeah. I think now... What I need to put is what I think is the best jumping on point for Spider-Man. You might be like, Alex, what is the best jumping on point for Spider-Man? But before I mention that, I need to mention what Classic Spider-Man is. Classic Spider-Man, as is displaying, it is in Epic Collections, very commonly, which Epic Collections I already showed you. There are those thick trades. Omnibuses, which are Omnis. I'll go over formats in another video. But it's in Omnis, it's in Masterworks, which are like half of an Epic Collection, which are hardcover, oversized, and paperback, I believe. Don't have any Masterworks, so I don't fully know the scale. And that's what it's mainly in, are those formats. So that's sort of how you can collect those. Next we have what is my favorite read for Marvel of 2024. Now if you've seen that video, which not a lot of people did, that is one of my worst performing videos. Because you can't even, in comic book YouTube, you cannot even say to one... You have to be very niche with your content, okay? I can't even just be comics. I can't even be collected edition comics. I have to specifically be DC Comics, so my Marvel videos all tank. Please watch my Marvel videos, because I don't want them to fully tank. My Marvel videos are like my lowest viewed videos, basically. It's very sad. But, with that being said, you know, my favorite read of 2024 was Ultimate Spider-Man. I read this trade before reading, like, the full Omni. I got this trade for, like, $7. It's coming apart. Like, there's a page out of it. But I give this for, like, friends and stuff. It was already, like, ripped out and stuff. It's not ideal, but it's awesome. It's in this trade. But these trades are heavily out of print. They were in, like, Ultimate Collection books. But those are now out of print. So the newest format, the format that's about to release, I believe, that in the next month, is a Epic Collection, a modern day Epic Collection, which I already showed the Epic Collections, but it's a modern day version where it collects what is the first two trades, which I believe is 13 or 14 issues, which is just the perfect starting point of Spider-Man. You don't have to read it on from there with the Ultimate Spider-Man, but I suggest doing it. I've stopped collecting Ultimate Spider-Man, but if you keep going on with Ultimate Spider-Man, they renumber it once, and then they renumber it with Peter Parker, and then something happens to Peter Parker, which I won't get into, but it's a spoiler in one of the omnibus titles. But that happens in one of the books, and then it is, that happens in one of the books, and then Miles Morales is introduced, which is important for, like, Spider-Verse, because a lot of people love the Spider-Verse movies, but that character is introduced. And you get different takes on a lot of characters, and this is the start of... You'll be very much inspired from this in the movies. And that's the idea of Harry Osborn and MJ being high school classmates of Peter Parker. Now, it's a slightly different... It's a weird case for MJ. So, in the original comics... I need to go and... I need to bring back to the original, I'm sorry. But in the original comics, MJ was not a character that was at Peter's high school, like it is in movies and all that. She was just like a character who was mentioned a ton. It's like, Peter, Mary Jane Watson, such a lovely girl. And then she's, like, shown in, like, issue 41. Takes a long time to pay off after her first mention, which is interesting. So, yeah, but it takes a while. And then Harry's just not there until college at all. But in this story, Harry's in college, and the first villain that Peter fights is the Green Goblin. And the Green Goblin is big and scary. Like, that's the Green Goblin. It's not like the small guy on the glider who throws the pumpkin bombs. He's a big big chunk of a person. Yeah, so like I was saying, it's collecting those trades, those Ultimate Collections, in the Epic Collection that's about to release. But the format that is all collected, and probably, if you're wanting to read all of it quickly, the best format to buy it in, which will end up being cheaper, since a lot of these are on sale, and that is Ultimate Spider-Man in omnibus format. I really like... This is the same cover as the trade, but this collects the first 41 issues of this Omni, and they all collect around 40 issues of the story, which is very interesting and very enjoyable. For those 41 issues, it gets a bit different. It's not as good in the other two Omnis, but it's like going from some of the best comics for, like, some of the best Spider-Man comics ever written to very good Spider-Man comics, which there's a bit of a difference, but I still really enjoy the other Ultimate stuff. But I've jumped off after Mark Bagley decided to leave the series. This is the second time Mark Bagley has been in there, and the writer is Brian Michael Bendis. And to go in a tiny bit more to the Ultimate Universe, it is a spectacular series to read, and Bendis just made it set up perfectly. And this was like Marvel fighting bankruptcy, was sort of the thing with it, where it was made to just jump on new readers because continuity got very fluid and all that since it had but now been a 40-year-old character in Spider-Man. So it's reset a lot of stuff, and that's the best Ultimate book by far. So yeah. Okay, I'm back. So the next book that I have is Ultimate Spider-Man. Now you might be like, Alex, did you not just go over Ultimate Spider-Man? Well, I did. This is a different Ultimate Spider-Man. You can sort of see with the design here. This gives a tiny little bit of spoilers. I have a lot of other issues. I've been reading this monthly. I have like issues 8 on so far, and I've read rest on Marvel Unlimited. What is it collected? Well, like I've said, it's in these single issues. This is the most recent issue. As of recording this, that's released issue 13, and right now it's in one trade paperback collection, which with a second coming in, I believe, the next 2 or 3 months. So that is interesting. I've been really enjoying it. It's by Jonathan Hickman with some art by Marco Checchetto, who's done a good amount of like stuff. He started, or at least from what I've sort of seen, he started doing a good amount of Star Wars comics, and then he jumped into main stuff with Daredevil and some Spider-Man. Just amazing work, but he has a great work here, and Jonathan Hickman's like Marvel's Jeff Johns, basically, is sort of how I'd put it. Okay, now, this is the final book. Now, I'd say many people, like a lot of people, think this is the best Spider-Man run, and I don't fully disagree. I've only read about half of the technical, like less than half of the technical run, but I love this. I sort of have a weird format for what it's actually in. So, let's get into it. And what is that Spider-Man run? Spider-Man by J. Michael Straczynski. The art starts being by John Romita Jr. Now, John Romita Jr. is the son of John Romita, who did Classic Spider-Man, which I went over already. But this story is amazing, and I need to show. So there, it brings up interesting ideas of stuff like who is Spider-Man, and there's some weird stuff. Sort of see it there. There is some weird stuff in this that I'm not the biggest fan of, but the main thing is the relationship between Peter and MJ and Peter and Aunt May. That's the driving factor. Now, what is this collected in, Alex? It's in these Best of Spider-Man hardcovers. I have the first 3 of these. These are heavily out of print, but they are easier to find since they're omnibus. There are 2 omnis. The second one's in print. The first one is, in fact, not in print these days. There are some trade paperbacks, like this one that I have here. So cool, has the same color as that. So that's trade paperback. And there's a Modern Day Epic collection that releases next month, which, as of recording this, is March. So in March, there is a Modern Day Epic that will release. So that is what are my final thoughts of this video. Sort of, those are my final books that I've read. And now I'm just going to quickly go over some other books that I've heard are amazing. And that is, that I have not read. That is the Black Costume Saga. That's an Omni that I've heard is amazing. I own it, but I have not read it yet. That I've heard has some amazing. But I've heard it as a rival for the best Spider-Man run is Roger Stern. That omnibus is out of print, but those issues will be collected in new omnis that will release, like Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 2 and the 7th Amazing Omnibus. So that is sort of my final thoughts. Thank you all for watching this video, and you can find me here on YouTube and on Spotify at the Central Comics Podcast. I would like to say weekly, but it's not weekly yet, but it's a podcast that I have my brother and some special guests, like one of my brother's friends, Gabe, is on the first one, and we will be having other special guests soon. So, yep, I'm Alex from the Comic Central, and until next time, goodbye.